Brand nerds. It's summer 2026, Larry.
Love it.
All right, y'all. Summertime. Summertime. Shout, Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince.
I'm
We
glad you
made,
said Jazzy Jeff first because he doesn't get enough run, I think, sometimes. You know what I mean?
I agree. And that was actually the name of the group.
Right.
Yeah, it was Jazzy Jeff who was the
First.
DJ, who
Yeah.
was the primary. But brand nerds, we know you all are out and about during the summer. Hopefully, you're getting some vacation time, rest and relaxation. And while you're doing that, what Larry and I and the Brands Beats and Bytes family thought we would do is to share some of the best that we've ever done at Brands, Beats, and Bytes, some episodes. So we're going to be remixing some things for the summer that we're going to point you to by resurfacing the best of Brands, Beats, and Bytes anytime, summertime.
Brand nerds, what DC and I are really talking about is if you missed this episode the first time, you need to catch it this time. They are must see or listen, whichever you prefer. Brand nerds, let me break it down why this episode cannot be missed. Paige Young is a true Silicon Valley communications guru. At the time of this recording, Paige was Chief Communications Officer at the tech company ServiceNow. Currently, Paige is Chief Comms Officer at Intuit. Paige is both a wonderful human and also a super successful business person. The fascinating stories Paige tells with her ascent from an entry-level gaming company position to Chief Comms Officers for some of the most important tech companies in the world reveal the title of our show, which is what DC calls Paige, and it is simple. Be you, be kind, be badass. Enjoy.
You're listening to another podcast of Brands, Beats, and Bytes. Brand nerds, today is a very special day. Sometimes we meet people and they're like friends of ours that we have seen and known throughout our years and our careers, but it's not often that we get two of them from the same area. I'm going to let Larry say a little bit about that early, but we don't necessarily get pairs on Brands, Beats, and Bytes. The other thing, brand nerds, you all know that we started Brands, Beats, and Bytes at the Zoo, KZSU, the public radio station at Stanford University. So we were at Palo Alto, LT, you know this, you and I and Jay, in the heart of Silicon Valley. And brand nerds here and in the 49 other countries that listen to us, we all understand how important tech is, especially now that we have AI, all of these different things that are happening. It's tech. Well, Larry, you and I grew up in brand management. And so when we were coming up, CPGs and marketers and brand, we were kind of like the cat's meow. Brand nerds in the area of tech, communications and PR, that's the cat's meow. That's the cat's meow. And today, brand nerds and LT, we've got someone in the building who is at the tip of the spear at understanding that both comms and PR in the tech world, this is going to be a treat. LT, who do we have auspiciously in our building today?
Oh, what a good preface, D. I love it. DC, we have Paige Young in the house today. Welcome, Paige.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We're thrilled to have you. And all right, D, as I was very fortunate to work with Paige when we were both at Edelman, not only is she a highly successful C-suite tech exec, she is also really good people. That mix does not happen often enough, and one of the many reasons why Paige is exceptional. Truth be told, we have been trying to get Paige on the podcast for a long time, and we are really happy we finally have her on. Also, brand nerds, you should know Paige's husband, Wayne Hickey, is a prior guest, album 2, track 24. We actually reran Wayne's episode last week since it was so good, and we thought it would be a great lead-in for this one with Paige. Plus, as I texted Wayne, with having Paige now, we really are saving the best for last, but I do digress. So,
LT, can I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
Have we ever had a pair on, a married pair? Has that ever happened on Brand Beats and Bytes?
Not with separate. This is the
Not
first
separate,
one with
yeah.
separate episodes, right?
I remember. Okay, all right. I thought this is good. This is gonna be good. Maybe we can get Paige to give us a little dirt on her hubby. But okay, let's go. Let's go, Larry.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Yeah,
I'm ready to dish.
Wayne's gonna love this, right, Paige? So let's get into Paige's amazing background, though. So Paige is truly one of the very best PR comms leaders in all of Silicon Valley. That's what DC was alluding to. When we have great accomplished guests like Paige, we love for our brand nerds to hear the path she has taken from college through present day. So let's do it. Paige went to college at the University of South Florida, earning her degree in mass communications and English lit. After graduation, Paige joins gaming company Wild Tangent, clear across the country in Seattle, first as a PR manager, then marketing communications manager. Paige then gets an opportunity to join game engine developer Lith Tech as director of marketing communications. Obviously, a step up in responsibility and all that goes with it. Brand nerds, please note, this is the first of many instances where Paige does this exceedingly well in her career. The next move for Paige is to join top PR firm Weber Shandwick, working on many facets of the prominent Microsoft account. She joins as account director, and in her 5 successful years there, she works her way up to VP. Then Paige gets a fantastic opportunity to jump back to the client side, joining Expedia as director of PR, and she is eventually promoted to director of global marketing and communications. So brand nerds, here is where relationships and doing a great job pays dividends in ways you cannot imagine. Paige jumps back to the agency side, joining Edelman, one of the largest global communications PR firms, on the Microsoft Stores account. If Paige doesn't do really well in the Microsoft account while at Weber Shandwick, this simply doesn't happen. Paige does so well in this role, a couple of years later, she is promoted by Edelman to be their EVP and Global Client Relationships Manager for the very important Adobe account. The best description of Paige's job performance on the Adobe account is Adobe asked Paige to join the company as their senior director for the Creative Cloud Communications. After 3 years at Adobe, tech customer solutions provider Zendesk comes calling, and Paige joins them as their VP of Communications. After a stint also as VP of Comms at Unity Technologies, Paige jumps to a big promotion, joining her current company, ServiceNow, as their Chief Communications Officer. At ServiceNow, they believe in the power of technology to reduce complexity and make the world a better place by helping digitize and unify organizations so they can find smarter, faster, better ways to make work flow. Some highlights for ServiceNow, which, by the way, Paige, this blew me away. And their 22,000 employees are 3 bullets that come out. $2.2 billion in Q3 subscription revenues, 98% renewal rate, and approximately 85% of the Fortune 500 use ServiceNow. As the leader of global communications at ServiceNow, Paige and her team build highly influential communications and PR strategies that enhance the ServiceNow brand reputation with both external and internal audiences. Paige and her team also drive high visibility media opportunities to raise profiles of ServiceNow leaders. We are super excited to finally get her on the show, and this is going to be a real fun one, brand nerds. Welcome to Brands, Beats, and Bytes, Paige Young.
Ooh, a little tired just hearing that description, but thank you. I'm very humbled.
You did it all.
Oh, yeah.
Over 30 years. But yes, thank you so much. That's probably the best intro I will ever have in my career.
These are your flowers. These
Yes.
are your flowers that you have already seeded, planted, grown, right, watered. They're all you. And Larry does a fantastic job of that. And Paige, whenever he does this, I enjoy watching the faces. I know most of the brand nerds will listen to this, they won't see the visual, but I enjoy seeing the faces of our guests as these things are being read. Now, I'm gonna be morbid for a second here, but just bear with me. It's like an obituary, but not so much. It's being read while you're here. And we normally hear these things when we're done. So congratulations.
Thank you. I'm glad it was before the eulogy at my graveside. So it's nice to get a little, preview of that moment.
well done, Paige. All right, brand nerds. Before we go to get comfy, Paige, I just want to go to the brand nerds and point something out. These were the 3 bullet points that Larry said about ServiceNow, where Paige is. $2.2 billion in Q3 subscription revenue. Brand nerds, if you took the word out subscription, that's still really good. That's still really good. 2.2 billion with a B. But when you add the word subscription, that gives you an indication that not that Paige and the leadership team are resting on their laurels. This is coming. Like,
that's right.
Now they got to earn it. They have to earn it in the renewal rates. They have to earn it. But having a business that's based on recurring revenue, nectar, sweet. So you're listening to someone who's been a part of building that kind of business. So I wanted to point that out to the brand nerds as it relates to the revenue picture. Now we go to Get Comfy. So Get Comfy is where we go into a subject just to kind of get you warmed up as we get ready for the other questions. But I don't think you knew this, Paige, about me. I'm a girl dad. So I have 3 daughters, one of whom works with brand positioning doctors on the podcast, Haley, who you saw at the beginning. So I am definitely a girl dad. I was raised by a grandmother and my mom, both of whom rest in peace. So I'm going to go to a one direction and I'm going to bring it back to me being a girl dad. So I want to talk about movies and superheroes. So if you look at the top 5 movies globally of all time, 2 of them are Avatar. The rest of them are all Marvel movies. So the world is infatuated with superheroes as an archetype, like this superhero that does all of these things. Here are 3 names in tech. Steve Jobs, rest in peace. Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg. Globally, the story, the narrative behind these brilliant men, Jeff Bezos, let's add him into the mix here, is somehow because of their sheer brilliance out of a garage or on a college campus, they birthed this idea and then they launch these companies and they become multi-$100 billion companies, in some cases market value of $1 trillion, and they did it largely on their own. Okay, this is the narrative. Brand nerds, that's a false narrative. None of these gentlemen, as brilliant as they are, did it on their own, but the archetype remains. And typically it is a male. And typically, if you look at the top 10 most valuable brands now, it's in tech. So now let me bring this question to you and to Get Comfy. Paige, you are not a man, okay? But you are in tech. What's it like? And this is as a girl dad, as I think about my adult daughters. For the brand nerds out there that are women seeking to be successful in tech specifically, where this superhero narrative about men and how smart they are and how brilliant they are pervades, how have you been able to distinguish yourself? And have you found anything that has come up throughout your matriculation where you thought, because I am a woman, I need to kind of move a bit differently? Anything like that for you?
I mean, I would say every woman, probably in every industry, in every sector, has felt the need to very carefully consider how they show up in the workplace. It's a term that's sometimes often called covering, which is you have to just give extra thought to how you appear in the room, to how you write your emails, to how you dress. I think the good news is that is starting to shift, but you can't pretend that it's gone away at all. And it's unfortunate. I think you'll probably find through the course of this interview, I'm pretty real, I'm pretty transparent, but I think there are a lot of
yes, I have to say that.
Thank you, Larry. You can attest. But I do think there is an extra layer of pressure and responsibility that female leaders or leaders from any, or employees, honestly, it doesn't have to be just leaders from any underrepresented group, you absolutely feel that. And you just get used to it. And it just becomes second nature to the point that sometimes you don't even realize you're doing these things. I'm really pleased that some of that's shifting and changing. And I think of so many of the women on my team, early in career, and the confidence they have to be themselves in the workplace and to just show up as who they are. And I try to greet them where they're at and just invest in them. And it's like, it's such a point of pride for me, but I also can't pretend that these aren't still factors. And as a girl dad, it is something that, you know, and very open to your opinion here. I'm not, I'm a dog parent. I'm not a parent of a human, but, it is one of those things that I think you want to, you know, you try to guide in the best way, but also not, I guide the people on my team to not over index to it in the hopes that it's not something that they have to deal with in the future.
Dee, I have to chime in here. So that's a great answer by Paige, of course. And again, having worked with her, I have the benefit. Paige shows up so authentically. Like there's no BS about her and there's no airs. She is who she is. So I think it becomes a great reflection for all those both males and females who work with her and for her. And I think she's an incredible model for the females on her team because she shows up as genuine. And Paige, you know, again, you do all the things that you do. And whether that's going to get your nails done, which, you know, Paige works harder than anybody, but I know that there were days where she had to go get her nails done and she was going to do it. And by the way, she would let people know I'm still available because Paige and I were on a couple of fire drills and that happened. And it wasn't like she was hiding. You know what I mean? Like that's who she is. And it was, I always thought it was such a breath of fresh air and so appreciative of, because she showed up that way. And so, and others see that and feel that and realize that they can be their true selves too.
Yeah, I'm sensing that already. Go ahead, Paige. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I appreciate you saying that. I think the thing that I always try to do is sort of model, what, you know, what are the qualities or what are the ways of showing up in the workplace and outside of work that really inspired me when I was building my career. Who are the people that showed up for me, and what were the qualities that really I respected and admired? Sometimes, yes, I might be going to get my nails done, but there are other things. One of the things I try to do really right now, and I really try to model it to my team, is when I go on vacation, I'm always accessible. I don't have a 9-to-5 job. I think we all know that. But I really try to, when I'm off, I try to be off. There's always a way to reach me, but I really want to model the behavior to my team that when they are on vacation, they can really be on vacation. We're all so much better at our jobs when we've had a break.
Absolutely.
And so I just think there are those little things that I think can be really powerful, that you think are small, but they actually show your team who's watching you closely to see what are the right ways of showing up. What are the things to do? And those are things that are important to me.
Love it.
One follow-up question here, and then we'll move on to the next section. Paige, you've talked about showing up multiple times in this answer. You also mentioned the word confidence. I'm going to share a very brief story about myself. When I got out of B school and I went to the Coca-Cola company as a newly minted MBA, I did not have the confidence that I should have had. My hang-up was I graduated from a HBCU, great school. For those brand nerds who don't know what that means, that's historically Black college universities, HBCU. And amongst me were MBAs from Stanford, Wharton, Harvard, Fuqua, Kellogg. So some of the best school, Oxford, some of the best business schools in the world. And so I thought I had to be like them in my own Black skin version of it. And it was an unmitigated disaster. So it wasn't until I said, oh no, I'm going to do it my way, shout Frank Sinatra, that it began to work. Was there a moment for you when you had the confidence to show up, or has that just always been you, Paige?
Well, I love this.
Yeah, gosh, I'm digging deep here. Okay. I love it. It's such a great question. I don't know if there was a specific moment. Um, but I think one of the things that, age teaches you or mistakes teach you is you sort of start to come into your own power in a way that I think is really meaningful. And at some point, you just start removing all the layers of bullshit. And, I talked about covering and like how you think you're supposed to be, and you just are yourself. And that's my responsibility is to show up as me, to bring the gifts that I have, and to provide a platform so my team can do the same for themselves. And I think it was honestly just over time and coming more into myself in a way that I think I couldn't keep up the facade any longer. It's exhausting to be someone other than yourself. Our jobs are difficult enough. Life is difficult enough that you just want to peel the layers and just be real. And I was talking about some of the young people on my team. I love how real they are. Not that they don't feel the same pressures or, we all felt that early in our career when you're just trying to figure something out, but you found some mentors and some people who guided you along the way, and you just started to come into your own. And the confidence piece, you get some success too, you work through mistakes. I think those are the moments where you just really figure out who you are and what you're made of. And I think for me, it was this sort of peeling back the layers of the onion and, and just kind of coming into my own that really did it for me.
Whew. Paige, thank you. We'll go now to our read here. But I'll just conclude by saying this. Not only is it exhausting trying to be someone else other than your true self, everyone else happens to be taken.
Yeah.
True. That's all there really is, right? Yeah.
That's right.
Just
all right.
You.
LT, would you like to do the honor of the specificity read?
Yes, I will. Right. So, hey, brand nerds, back at you to talk with you about specificity. And brand nerds, we know many of you are immersed in digital marketing or simply involved in it. Either way, if you want to optimize your digital marketing to maximize results, we have the solution for you. In 2021, an interesting thing happened that forever changed the landscape of digital marketing. Apple's iOS update was structured to provide users the opportunity to opt out of ads, and more than 90% of users opted out. Android quickly followed suit with similar opt-out numbers. This situation created complete upheaval for the entire digital marketing infrastructure, with engagement rates falling precipitously. Now you know why you may be a 24-year-old single dude playing your favorite game app on your phone, and all of a sudden you're being hit with an in-game ad for Pampers. That's serious money down the drain. Here's where specificity comes in to save the day. Specificity does not track or know users' personal data such as name, social security number, etc. Specificity uses device ID numbers similar to a VIN number on a car, so they track what users are doing without knowing their personally identifiable information, working in complete harmony with the post-privacy update. Now with specificity, both the consumer and the advertiser are happy, since consumers see digital ads that are relevant for them, and advertisers serve ads to people that are receptive to the message. Let's give a real-life example. If our super producer Jeff's old brand Lunchables wanted to use specificity, they can serve ads to only parents, well, not just any parent. They can dial into serving ads to only working parents of children 6 to 12. Additionally, if they wanted to, they could also not serve ads to any parents who are vegetarians or vegans, consumers who are not exactly prone to buy Lunchables. Bottom line is that this would enable Lunchables to be incredibly efficient in serving their message only to those who would be most receptive, and doing it in a way that completely respects said consumer's privacy, since they do not know or learn any personal information about these people. The bottom line is, in the end of 2023 here, we believe no one else out there can deliver better digital marketing results than specificity. We have introduced specificity to many clients, and everyone is super happy, since each client has been more successful with their digital marketing efforts than they were before. For more information on specificity, please visit their website at specificityinc.com. specificity.com. Again, specificityinc.com. That's specificity.com. Their website is also in our show notes. If you want to improve your digital marketing results, go check them out.
Thank you, LT. All right, Paige, we are now into 5 questions. I ask a question, Larry asks the next. We go back and forth until we arrive at 5. What was the first experience that you can recall where a brand captivated your soul? You were into this brand, Paige. You could not get enough of this brand. When you engaged with this brand, you smiled. It brought you joy, not for reward, not for remuneration, not for recognition. It was just you and this brand, almost like a first love. What was this for you?
So it has to be Barbie. I have to give, I'd love to have a more like intellectual answer. I don't. It was Barbie for me. I grew up in the late 70s and 80s, and it really totally sort of took over my world at that time. I was absolutely an avid consumer, and I could feel the tangible qualities of that brand, and sort of what it meant for me growing up.
You're not the first guest to say that, by the way. So that's interesting. Have you seen the movie?
Of course.
The
And I
movie was
loved it.
amazing. It
Yes.
was amazing, wasn't it?
It did. I think, I don't know if your previous guest felt this way, but those of us who loved Barbie as young people, I think you start to sort of question, there's certainly some challenges with the imagery that Barbie and the visual that Barbie put out into the world. We've all seen the super weird Barbies that they sort of showcased in the movie that are just sort of troubling. Like you really thought that was a product that you should market. Right. And so, you kind of get distance from it, and you look back and wonder, were you supporting a stereotype? And the answer is yes, you absolutely were. And I just think that they did such a good job. Hats off to the entire team, but to Greta specifically, because she just did such a good job sort of putting in context that story, and also breathing new life into it, and focusing on the female empowerment aspects of it, and women supporting women, that I think was just, it was so good.
Oh, it was so good, Paige. And DC and I have talked about this, I don't think on the show, but what's amazing to me is that Mattel pretty much let them go, because again, Paige, I know you've been on this end, and DC and I have as well. When you're giving your brand to a third party, to a creator in some form or fashion, and you're always trying to strike the balance of how creative do you want this person to be, or group to be, versus how your brand is being portrayed. And I give huge hats off to Mattel for letting them do what they did, because they certainly didn't put the brand in just with the movie, they didn't put the brand in the best light all the time. They did reveal all the things that you mentioned, but at the end of the day, it's the greatest 2-hour commercial for Barbie now going forward, including getting the origin story in with the Rhea Perlman character, right? Like, I'm just blown away. And I think most companies, I don't know, would have had the fortitude and the confidence to let all that go.
Yeah, I think it's such a great point. And I think if you read some of the stories that have come out about the making of, you knew it wasn't just that she put the script forward and they said, great.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it was a journey.
They had thumbs up, brand nerds.
Yeah. It was absolutely a journey. They had some areas of discomfort, and she stayed the course and was absolutely right. I had conviction on the story that she was trying to tell, that she could do respect by the brand, but also talk about the challenges and the history and some of the areas where they'd gone wrong over the years. And it was so much more credible for it. And so honestly, hats off to them, but I think hats off to her, especially just because she had conviction and the bravery and the courage to know that she was on the right track.
No question.
Now, I have not seen Barbie. I've not seen the movie, but what I have seen, Paige, is I've seen the reaction to the movie by those that are consumers of Barbie, like you were, and my daughters have been, and my sister growing up was as well. And I've also seen some of the stories about it. So my perspective on it is not one who has actually seen the movie. But here is what I have been reminded by. You mentioned Mattel, Larry, is that none of us who are in the business of building brands on the side of a client own the brand.
Yep.
We don't own it. Consumers own
Yes.
the brand. And what Greta recognizes that, hey, Mattel, you may have the IP rights to the brand, but you don't own this brand.
Ooh.
And I, as a consumer, Greta, as a consumer, are going to walk you all through this process of acknowledging that consumers own this brand and love this brand. And they also have some issues with this brand as well. They've got some issues, and we're going to lay it bare in a very entertaining way. So brand nerds, when you're in these meetings, take a page out of Greta's book. If you have an understanding of what the consumer really thinks about the brand, stay with that, even if there's discomfort along the way. That's my learning from Barbie.
Huge point, D.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I will say my own experience, and I'll just speak on this briefly, of that is I came up in my career in gaming, spent about some time in gaming, and also in the creative work, sort of working and supporting Adobe's Creative Cloud. And I think what I learned is exactly what you just said, DC. It is really something where you have to understand, and this is where so many companies go wrong, that they are just a conduit for the brand back to the audience that loves that brand.
Love that word.
And you really, I mean, and you see it in gaming all the time where companies kind of go off the rails. They take the story in a different direction. They get rid of a beloved character. They don't take care of the product and the experience in a way. They start charging for a bunch of extra stuff no one's expecting. And that is where they usually, they hear from that community. That's the thing you can say about gamers is they will definitely share their perspective and their feelings and usually make it known quite clearly. So couldn't agree more.
Hey, LT, before we go to the second question, so brand nerds, our super producer, Jeff Page, he doesn't like Larry or I to date our podcast. So Jay doesn't like that. Haley doesn't like that. So that folks will listen to it and go, oh, wait a minute. Now that happened, but I'm going to date this one. So brand nerds, you may or may not be aware.
And D breaks his rule all the time, Paige. But go ahead.
So
but you acknowledge the rule while breaking it.
While breaking it, yes.
Yeah.
So Jeff, I know the rule. I'm about to break it. So brand nerds, this past week, the world lost a writing icon. All right. His name is Norman Lear. Norman Lear. So he is famous for many sitcoms that happened back in the 70s, maybe even as far back as the 60s and the 80s, All in the Family, The Jeffersons. And so, and there's, as there is with any story, there's going to be a little turbulence out there. But I just want to connect this to what you said, Paige, about the a conduit. What Norman Lear, as a story writer and creator, I think understood was the characters in his shows were not his characters. Yep. Those characters in his shows became family members of the viewing public.
So true.
We are conduits. And to the degree that we understand that, our brands do better, movies do better, shows do better, books do better. To the degree that we hold on too tight, problemo. All right, Larry, second question, brother.
So, Paige, you alluded to this before, so I'm really looking forward to this question. Who is Hatters having the most influence on your career?
This is one of those that's impossible to answer. Of course, we've talked about him already. I have to give a shout out to my husband. I think
he did for you too. Just
I gotta just
you gotta acknowledge him.
Pay a tribute to old what's his face.
This is sounding obligatory, Paige.
Yeah, yes, it's a commercial for Wayne Hickey, which I'm going to talk for about 2 minutes. No, I am very lucky that I have a partner who understands what I do because we met at work. But I've had so many. As I was thinking about this interview and this question, I've had so many badass female leaders who took an early interest in me, who invested in me, who pulled me aside and had the tough conversation. Because tough conversations, we joke, feedback is a gift. It actually really is a true gift if delivered in the right way. And I was lucky enough that I had people who really believed in me along the way, all the way from my first job in comms to my work at Expedia to my boss at Adobe, Maria Poveromo, so many. But then I also had a lot of leaders who really, like talked about, sort of leaders who showed up, who modeled the qualities that I admired. And I always admired leaders who just approached their work from more carrot versus stick. I don't think, and let's be clear, I've been doing this for a while. There was a distinct period in my career where the culture of being a workaholic, I mean, there were a number of years where we'd get to the end or the weekend and we'd say, I worked 80 hours this week.
Yeah.
It was like a point of pride. You're like,
badge of honor.
really, yeah, that's your badge of honor. Like, oh, you're really invested. That is not a point of pride. And nor do I definitely put the time in, but that's not for me where we should be encouraging we've all, thrown ourselves on the altar of workaholism. And it is not something that I think is, burnout, anxiety, mental health issues, these are all things that we'd like to convince ourselves it just exists outside our little bubble. These are other people's problems. No, it's very real. It's very tangible. It is absolutely a crisis. And I think it is something that I have admired leaders who have integrated lives, who are great partners, love their kids, go on vacation, have hobbies, have lives outside of work. And so I was able to work with a lot of leaders who really epitomized that as well. And also just came with so much kindness and patience and inspiration. And those are the people that I really wanted to get behind and support. I'm lucky right now. I have a boss and a CEO who absolutely epitomized that for me today. I can say that I'm very lucky to be in this situation. And that's one of those things that I keep trying to bring of myself. And in those moments, because if you're a perfectionist and someone who can overwork, and I am one of those people, you have to it's a constant battle, constant journey. And I kind of keep reminding myself to wellness and well-being and time away from work is something that's important.
Paige, I watched you struggle with that different times, and the fact that your humanness takes over. I think what's cool about Paige is she's never going to ask anybody to work harder than she does, and she works harder. And actually, what was my experience, you didn't expect people to even keep up with you because you understood that even as a leader at that time. And so I think it's really cool with not only what you say, but you back it up. I have an interesting note. My first job in brand was with Seagram, which doesn't exist anymore. It was a Fortune 50 company. And the head of marketing, and this was in New York, and the culture in New York in the summertime is you got to take advantage of every nice day there is. And so the company had half day Fridays. And so the head of marketing, Tom McInerney, shout out to him. He sent out a note to everybody in the marketing group saying this, that half days Fridays are starting whatever date. I leave at 1, so you should too. You should take advantage of this like I do, which was really cool because what he was really saying is, this is what everybody should be doing. I'm taking advantage of it, and you're not getting any points if you're here at 110, right?
Yeah. Those are the things these are small. We believe as leaders, they're small gestures. They're not.
Right.
People are watching. They remember that
Yep.
those things. It is, again, it comes back to modeling the behavior that you want your team to be part of. And that's, same point for me about really taking my vacations and really signing off. Again, you have my mobile number, I'm available, but I really am trying to take a break. And it's just, again, one of those things that I think is so important. And yes, I definitely, I try not to, I try not to ever ask my team to work harder than I am working. And I always see if I can take some of the burden from them to free them up a little bit. But I think at the end of the day, I'm going to probably butcher this quote, but one that I always come back to is from Ariana Huffington when she was doing some of her early work around sleep and wellness, where she said, you are not paid for your stamina. You're paid for your discretion, your strategic thinking. You are paid for what you can bring to the business. And I really think that breaks, getting a good night's sleep, taking care of yourself really makes you better at your job.
No doubt. Great stuff.
Paige and LT, you all know this. I know this as well, but a lot of our brand nerds, Paige, are coming out of school early in their career, and they're really trying to glean what can they learn from podcasts such as ours to help them move to the levels they want to move to in their careers. And so the next thing I'm about to say is more directed to those brand nerds. So for you brand nerds out there who are thinking, oh, I'm doing my 80 hours and my 85 hours, that kind of thing, nobody cares. Nobody really cares. So there isn't someone tracking your hours and going, oh, they hit the magic number of 80. They need a promotion right away. There's not someone at a Wall Street bank saying, oh, they hit the magic number 80. I'm now going to stroke you a check for $50 million in your Series A. No one cares. Like legit, no one cares. So if you're doing that, just recognize that no one cares. The second thing is this. Now, this is for the leaders. So Paige has said, when you go on vacation, it's clear that you're available if needed, but you try to take a vacation. So this is you modeling this. Larry, you talked about your former head at Seagram's saying for summer hours, I'm leaving at 1. So this is a behavioral model-based approach. I'm going to a quote, Larry, that you've never heard before, Paige, from my mother. Rest in peace. She used to tell me, baby, make sure the audio matches the video. Make sure the audio matches the video. And here's the deal. If Paige says to her team, when you go on vacation, really take a vacation, and every day she's emailing, what's up with this? I need a report. Then the audio is not matching the video.
That's right.
What she's doing is she's making certain the audio matches the video. So leaders, remember the audio must match the video. And those that are coming up, nobody really cares you're working 80 hours. All right, that's it. That's second question.
Love it. You can't use your mom's quote enough because it's such a great quote and applies so many places,
Mama Cobbin. Mama Cobbin.
Right. Rest in power.
Yeah, rest in power. Paige, I'm going to question number 3. Larry has given you your flowers. You've had many successes throughout your career. This third question, I want to know about none of those successes. Zero, nada, squadouche. I want to know about your biggest F up. I'm talking big, wet, stanky, just terrible F up, and what you learned from said F up.
Yeah, I mean, I have a bunch. I don't think I actually feel like if you don't have a pretty good list of failures, you're probably not trying hard enough.
Agreed.
Yeah, the fact is, that's where you learn the most. That's where you hone lessons. That's where you change tactics. And I mean, we're in such a vital, fast moving, always changing industry that it's, I guess you could just play it safe and just constantly be updating the playbook. But if you're making bold moves, which most of us are doing in this industry that we're in, I feel like you got to have a pretty long list. I'll give you one.
Okay.
Early in my career, I worked for one of the early web gaming companies. And I had a very charismatic CEO. I was very young. I was probably maybe mid-20s. This has happened throughout my career. Sometimes I get jobs that are a little beyond my skill set. This would probably be considered one of them. And I was supporting him in a series of different interviews with big sort of business publications. And this particular leader had come from a very well-known technology company. And of course, I'd known over time that he had left under sort of challenging circumstances. Okay. And he could not see beyond the challenging circumstances of when he left. So he would do an interview, give a great interview, very smart, great storyteller, just great speaker. And then invariably get to the point in the interview where he would just talk shit about his previous employer.
Ooh,
and he would just, now let me really tell you something. And, kind of have one of those moments.
Right.
I was so early in my career, and there was, of course, he was older than me, more seasoned. Of course, I admired him. And I just didn't have the wherewithal to really realize, like, this is horribly inappropriate. I just couldn't see through counseling him to frankly just shut up, stop doing that. You're not helping us in any way. And it wasn't until a story came out that basically, because he, the other thing he didn't do is ever mark this stuff off the record, which is also just, comms 101.
Right.
And so he would, which of course most comms people will tell you nothing's really off the record, but either way, he never sort of couched it in those terms. And a story came out about everything he had said. It turns out that major technology company was a partner and a customer, which makes it even worse. And I remember, sort of getting called to task. Why did you allow this to happen? And of course, part of my answer was, why is our CEO doing this? But it is one of those things where I think probably realizing that business leaders are also humans.
Yep.
Too, and that sometimes your job as a communications professional is to help them get out of their own way.
Yep.
And sometimes we counsel them, they're working through their stuff. I mean, sometimes I joke, it is a little bit of therapy too. And I think at the time I couldn't really see that. I was just too early. I just didn't have the confidence in myself or my career, my gut. I wasn't listening to myself. And so I let it go on too long, and it hurt. It hurt him. It hurt the business. I learned a valuable lesson. And I definitely look back on that moment, having appreciated the lesson, but having realized how absolutely painful it was to learn it.
Oh, that's a good one. Don't you think, Dee?
I don't think we've ever heard one like this before. This is good. Yeah.
This is really good. So Paige, the obvious follow-up is, has anything remotely like that happened since?
No, that was such a unique one. I mean, not that I haven't worked with a leader who may have part of their narrative or, to hone their story or their message or their delivery. Of course, that's part of it. And again, sometimes you have to realize, there are people, we're all working through our stuff, right? That's why we're on what I like to call Earth School, is we're here to learn and work through our things.
I like
Sometimes
that.
learn the lesson more than once. So if you're me, but I've never dealt with specifically that circumstance. Again, that was a very unique one.
A really good one. Dee, what you thinking?
I'm not sure. Well, actually, let me ask this question. Take yourself back to your self at that time, knowing what you now know. So let's wind the clock back, and the same thing happens. It plays out exactly the same the first time. What do you do differently?
Great question.
Yeah, a couple things. I think knowing, let's say, it just went the way it did. I think after the fact, what you deal with in those circumstances, because of course there are moments where you're trying to, something said in an interview, you realize it was probably not the best way to put it, or there's a fact that, needs to be updated, or there's something along those lines. I probably, you go behind the scenes and you start working with the reporter to say, listen, this was said, I think we need to sort of adjust, or can you and I talk through, let's leave this part of the conversation out. There are things that you can do, especially if you've put the time in and you invested in the relationships in a way that, journalists are journalists. And if they have a scoop, there is, you can only do so much to adjust and sort of alter, or even to offer them the chance and access to some other bigger story down the road. That's some things that you can do. That was absolutely a unique one, but knowing what I know today, those are probably some of the things I would have done. I also will say that knowing what I know today, I would have stopped that probably from occurring as it did.
Well, it sounds like you did it multiple times too. It feels like you would have stopped it after the first time.
Yes. There was, by that point, a history.
Right.
This was not the one first and only. It was multiple times.
Right.
Okay, brand nerds, I'm just going to say this quickly. There was a power dynamic happening with you, Paige. You had the CEO. Was it a male?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you have a CEO who's a male. And you are were you a junior person at this stage?
Yes.
Okay, you're a junior person, and the CEO is the one being interviewed, not you. It's daunting, brand nerds, to think of how does a junior person in PR try to stop a CEO from doing something dumb. So this is very, very tricky. Now, for all of you brand nerds, no matter where you are, I need you all to know something. The days, and you already know this, brand nerds, the days of people being in jobs, one job, one company, or several jobs in the same company for 30, 40 years, those days are gone. We know those have been gone for a long time.
Yep.
So here's what's going to happen. Every job you have in your career, you're either going to get fired or you're going to quit. I don't care what the job is, you're going to get fired, you're going to get quit. The risk of Paige saying something to the CEO, not the reporter, but the CEO, yo, bro, are you sure you really want to be doing this? The risk is she would get fired. He would say, get the hell out of here, go do another job. You don't tell me what to say, blah, 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 fill in the blank. So what I'm saying here, Paige and Larry, and also to the brand nerds, knowing you're either going to get fired or you're going to quit can be liberating. And it might open up some avenues for you to have conversations with people that you might not ordinarily want to do that with for fear of being fired. So I just say that as it relates to that situation. Horrible situation. Horrible.
Yeah, I think I absolutely agree. I also think there is something, and this is the job of a communications professional, to speak truth to power. And to really ask, is this best serving you in the company? And this, I know it feels good. I know it probably feels good in the moment to talk some smack about your former employer, but is this really, is this really helpful? Or the other thing that, given where I was in my career, I could have gone to someone else and said, this is a dynamic that's happening. I know so-and-so really trusts you. Would you be willing to address this? That's another way to approach it if you don't feel comfortable in that specific situation. But I will say most really good business leaders, they want feedback. They ask for it. They want to keep getting better. They have curiosity. They want to learn. And I think those are the best leaders to work for. And it usually shows up in the fact that, one, I can't imagine many of the leaders that I have a chance to work with now ever doing something like that. I can't imagine it at all. But I also realize that they are open to the feedback, and that's what makes them great at their jobs, frankly.
Yep.
Great point. LT?
Let's do the next question, Paige. Oh, I love this question for you because you steeped in your tech background. So when you're thinking about tech and marketing, can you tell us where you think marketers should lean in or best leverage tech? Or you could talk about areas you think that they should be leery.
I mean, I have to give what is probably going to seem like such an obvious answer, but I would be an idiot not to say that generative AI, I mean, it is transforming so many different elements of our jobs. And I will fully admit, I'm a little older. And probably there's a good portion of the, first few months of the Gen AI bubble where I was like, I don't know, that feels like cheating to use it for communications. Everything, I have to start everything from scratch myself, because one of the things that's very important to me is I still write content. I still create, I still want to keep my skills really fresh. So I don't just review things. I also will write and create content on my own. And that's really important to me. But I do think that the blank page problem, or, hey, I have this message, but I just kind of need to pivot or think about it in a different way, is exactly what Gen AI is made for. I don't know any communications team that has been so well resourced. I've never had the opportunity to work for a company that has so well resourced their communications team that you don't feel stretched. You always feel spread a little bit thin. And there is this, my CEO will call it soul crushing work that we all have to do, that Gen AI is absolutely made for. And then it frees you up to do the things that are truly human. And it's, what I've come to understand is it is not cheating, because there's no way that they can fully encapsulate a message or story or draft a press release that isn't going to need your ingenuity and creativity and strategic thinking. But man, isn't it nice to get something started quickly and then to be able to adjust versus always starting from scratch? And that's where I think comms marketing professionals, do it, of course, within whatever your company guidelines are, because there's some challenges. Hallucinations are real. There is, you want to be careful about what you're sending into the model. What is the model ingesting from you versus what it's spitting out? And so there's issues with confidentiality and so on. So do it in the right, safe way, but absolutely dive in. It's a brave new world out there. Try some of the tools, and it is absolutely fascinating. One of the things that I love too, if you have a leader that speaks in a certain way or has a certain tone or way of talking, you can actually say, I need a social media post about X, Y, and Z in this tone. You can actually put your leader's name in there, and it is surprising what will come out. And so I would just encourage everyone to dive in and give it a shot if you haven't. It really is, it's some powerful new technology.
I love the way you described that also from the beginning of your sort of, I don't know about this, the sketchiness, which I think most of us have, right? But I read something maybe very quickly, a month after ChatGPT was launched, and there was a journalist who talked about, hey, I need to understand this. So I gave them the story I was working on. And what this journalist discovered was that, wow, just what you said, the blank page effect, that, oh, this is a great start for me. And now they started for me, and now this is really awesome, meaning you lean in all the way. The blank page is very daunting sometimes, and now the blank page is no longer there. I have a head start, and now I will take it to where it needs to go in ways that the AI could never go. So this journalist went in very, very, leery about it, to saying, wow, I'm going to do all of my stories going forward in this fashion.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it is one of those where it really, I think, takes it really, again, it's about freeing yourself up.
Right.
versus forcing yourself into something that the tool can do just as well. And then it saves your strategies, because we all sort of have a finite amount of brain power in any given day. I think mine gets smaller and smaller the older I get in terms of the number of hours I have. And I think it just really saves that brain power for something that's more strategic.
Yep.
So brand nerds and Paige, you used what I think is a great metaphor. You said blank page.
Yep.
And that is exactly what AI is best for, is helping to populate the page.
Yep.
When we say page, we're referring to words. Paige will know this better than you and I, Larry. 95% of communication is nonverbal.
Yeah.
It's nonverbal. And so let AI do the page and the words, or at least to get you started. And then as a human, the things that need to be communicated non-verbally with the aid of some words, this is what our brains can do.
Yep.
AI can't quite go off the page yet. They're still on the page. They're really good on the page. By the way, I don't mean double entendre page, but they're really good for the page, not necessarily off the page. That's all I'll say about that. Great answer. All right, final. What are you most proud of, Paige?
I think I am, well, I don't think I am on this sort of journey to be a better person. And for me, I think I'm really proud of how I show up for my team and for my partner and for my family. I try to be a good friend. I try to be a caring leader. But what am I most proud of? I have a couple of rescue dogs that I love very dearly. They're very special to me. It's really important to me I have no judgment about anyone who buys a dog.
Say your dog's names now. Got to say your dog's names.
Oh, Henry and Jinsoon.
Okay.
And they're both just with us for about a year at this point. They're about the same age. One we got from Fresno, which I learned that the SPCA in San Francisco goes to Fresno twice a week to pick up dogs. They have so many, they're so overcrowded at that shelter. So we have Henry, who's just a very nervous but sweet and lovable lab mix. And then we adopted Jinsoon from Korea. She's a Jindo. And, I won't go into a lot of details because she has a sad story. But she, came from challenging circumstances, but is just this super smart, definitely probably smarter than us, I can say, and just a really beautiful dog. And to give them both, so much love, and to see them do normal dog things, knowing the circumstances that they came from.
Right.
It's just a really wonderful gift. And it's something I'm really passionate about. And Wayne could probably tell you that, every birthday, holiday, Christmas, what have you, I always joke, where's my puppy, or does this mean we can go get another rescue dog? His answer is usually at this stage, thinks 2 is good for a while, but I could absolutely see myself having more in the future. It's just a really wonderful thing that I get to do for them. And they give it back that much more to me and to Wayne.
I love that, Paige. That's so you.
That's good. That's good. Well, LT, shall we head on over to the what's this popping?
Yes, we shall. So D, Paige, what's popping?
What's popping?
Paige, this is our chance to shout out, shout down, or simply ask something happening in and around marketing today that we think is good fodder for discussion. So I'm going to go forward with something that I think will really be cool for us to discuss. So Morning Consult, I don't know if you guys are familiar with them, but they do this fastest growing brands each year. And the ones for 2023 were just released. So I want to give you a little backdrop before I get into it. So to arrive at its rankings, Morning Consult asked consumers if they would consider purchasing from brands in January 2023 and again in October 2023 and subtracting the share who said the same between the polls. A total
Got
of 1,586 brands were analyzed, and samples ranged from 1,069 to more than 17,000 responses. So that's the way they do it. I don't know about I'm a little sketchy with the way they do it, but it's kind of fun to talk about anyway. So I'm going to give you all the top 10 as it relates to total population, right? So the number one, and it's very funny, the segue, we have a perfect segue, is Chat GPT. No surprise there,
yeah.
right? Number two, D, you're gonna be a little perplexed by this one. It's Starry, which is Pepsi's version of trying to be Sprite. That's my take, right? That's number two. And then I'm going to read Zell is 3, Shine is 4. That's a fast fashion brain. Twisted Tea 5, Southwest Airlines 6. Funny enough, 7 is OpenAI, which is the purveyor of Chat GPT. 8 is Facebook, 9 is Instagram Reels, and 10 is Coke Zero. So that's the top 10. And then there's different top 10s for each of millennials, Gen Z, etc., which is all a little bit different. But what say you? What's your reaction as I read those top 10 brands?
Paige?
Well, I mean, in some ways it's not surprising.
Right.
It feels, I'm going to use an old school term, but it still applies. It feels very viral. It's almost like you could get on that list for, I'm sorry, sorry, Southwest. But I think we could understand maybe why Southwest is on there. So it is one of those things where you could almost see, one, I think it's probably you could buy your way into that list. I don't know if you necessarily earn your way onto that list. And two, so I questioned some of the methodology too, Larry, but it almost is one of those. There used to be that adage, there's no such thing as bad press. There absolutely is such a thing as bad press.
Yes.
But it usually will get you on maybe a list like that one in some circumstances.
Yes.
I'm
with
with
Paige
Paige on this one. To me, I've got an issue with the methodology because it's a growth methodology. So let me just predict what's going to be there in 2024. Bud Light, because if you fall off a cliff and then you come back somewhat, then you're going to end up being up there. So that's why I'm troubled by the methodology. But I will say this is that it isn't often that a company has a sub brand and both of them are at the top. It would be like looking at Interbrand and seeing the most valuable brand in the world is Apple, and then the top 10 is iPhone, for example. So there's something going on about that. And then Paige answered this in the question about technology, and this is the way I think about AI. There are some people, LT and Paige, that are like, I don't care about AI. That's the equivalent of standing on top of a 50-story building and saying, I don't care about gravity. Well, gravity does not care that you do not care about it. But if you step your ass 1 foot off that building, you're going to become quickly acquainted with gravity. It's happening. And so the fact that you have OpenAI and ChatGPT is just another example of AI is happening. So when you hear these folks that are in tech saying, we're afraid of AI and what it could ultimately do, the toothpaste is out. It's already out. Now we have to figure out what do we do with the toothpaste that's out. So that's my takeaway from the list. What say you, Larry?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's interesting, and I think to Paige's point, or D, maybe you said this, that you could buy your way onto the list. One of the things it said is that it says related to Morning Consult notes that Clinique and NYX Professional Makeup had products that went viral on TikTok. So this is also part of this, right? Dollar General also came in number 15 on the list, quote, due to a combination of economic uncertainty and social media virality, right? So this list is a little sketchy. I don't know that it has anything to do with true business being done, it's just almost performative, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're all kind of coalescing around
Yeah,
the same answer. It is, I mean, it's still interesting, right? And I mean,
right.
I think you guys probably deal with this even more than I do. There's so many lists out there, so many rankings, and it's all it's the methodology is always interesting. There's no sort of perfect way to do these
That's right.
things, and they all are kind of looking at some of the same areas, but from a different lens. We just had something the week prior that I thought was super interesting in that I'm not sure if you all are familiar with the Schultz Family Foundation, but they have been doing something for a couple years called the American Opportunity Index. Super interesting. They look at, it's kind of a big data study, but they're really trying to glean on from a number of different um, levers. Can you really advance at a company? Are you really doing right
Oh,
by your employees?
Oh, wow.
Um, it's really, they are doing it in a whole new way that I think is really powerful. And of course, it comes from a lot of the work that Howard Schultz did at Starbucks, which is very much known for investing in their people and being a
right.
value-based employer. Um, we came to it because ServiceNow was #1 in software and #5 overall, the top for technology.
Wow.
And it
Oh,
was a
wow.
really, yeah, just, I mean, it's one, I don't say that just to sort of, try to work in service now. I say it just because it was one of those moments where, when you're investing in your people, a lot of times no one's appreciating it. You're just sort of
Right.
toiling away, doing the right thing, making the right decisions. And just kind of investing in them day by day. We made the decision during COVID and even in the years after, where we've had some bumpy macro years from an economic perspective, not to do layoffs and to really, unlike other companies, we said we weren't going to do layoffs and we really did not do layoffs. And it was in those moments where you get the recognition that you really can have this sort of sense of pride. And I give all kudos to my CEO and our chief people officer and our entire leadership team. But that is one of those moments where you really feel like you're part of something bigger. And those are the kind of lists. There's a lot of lists that are all about, they're a little bit of vanity plays, but this was one that felt special and I think a little bit different.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Paige. That's
Me too.
really cool. And I think to your point, you can say stuff, but then again, as we've alluded to in many different ways in this podcast, your actions have to back up what you say.
Absolutely.
Right. And for you guys not to lay people off, it feels like there's been a lot of companies overall and a lot in the tech space who have used the economic uncertainty from a meta standpoint, say, oh, let's take this advantage and have some layoffs here. And clearly, you look at that and you just sort of go, did you really need to do that? Right. I mean, can't you just be more genuine in the way of going forward with, for whatever you think of GE, the fact everybody knows when they went to work at GE, if you're in, however they compute the bottom 10% or whatever, they get weeded out. Everybody knows that. And I think the transparency is the way to play is really where I'm going to.
Yeah, it's I appreciate everything that you just said, Larry, because I do think, I mean, we're words people, right? I mean,
Right.
we're in an industry, it's about messaging and it's about your, design and, customer experience. These are things that we love, but the most powerful, I mean, it goes back to something you said right in the beginning, DC, is it's actually what you do behind closed doors, that the decisions that you make that have nothing to do with what you say, it's how you really show up. And it's how you realize that your brand is actually owned by your customers. Your company is actually owned by the employees. It's just those sometimes things that seem like really small gestures, but are really meaningful. And so what I always love is, what are you doing when the cameras are off?
Yep.
There's no reporters around. How are you showing up for your people? That I think is really meaningful. So it's interesting that a person who's all about words, I actually think the most powerful thing is truly actions.
And you belie that, Paige. You do.
Absolutely.
You really
Thank you.
do.
Thank you for saying that.
D, should we go to a close with that?
I can't believe we're already here.
I know this has been so much fun, Paige. So we're at the close, and we posit our learnings, which were vast from you. I'm going to cull mine down to be concise. So I have 5. Number 1, be you. Paige models that. Just be you. Be your authentic self. That's number 1. Number 2, on vacation, be on vacation. Number 3, feedback, even if rough, is a gift. Even if somebody provides you feedback in a way you might not like, what, yelling or screaming or whatever, try and find the feedback that can actually help you get better. Number 4, approach leadership with carrot rather than stick. And number 5, this comes from Paige's F-Up. As a young person, if your gut tells you something, speak truth to power. Paige said it, and I'm going to reiterate it. Speak truth to power. Even if you're a junior with a senior person, like Paige was in that situation, you're much better off, because like DC said, you're going to get fired or you're going to quit. Either way, you can look yourself in the mirror and know that you were doing the right thing. Those are mine.
Outstanding, LT. Outstanding. Paige, don't know if you've heard any of our podcasts, including that of your husband, including that of your partner, Wayne. But if you have heard any of them, you will know that at the end, the attempt that I make is to understand and summarize the human that's in front of me. What are they bringing to this thing called life? And I'm not a therapist, just to be clear. I just play one on Zoom.
He just plays one on Zoom.
I just play one on Zoom. And so sometimes it hits me, sometimes it doesn't. I'm going to attempt to share with you what's hit me about you and our conversation today. During our 5 questions, the first one was your first branding experience, the one that really touched you. And you said Barbie. And you talked about Barbie, not just as the brand, but you also talked about Barbie, this movie that has happened. And you specifically referenced the movie's director, Greta Gerwig. And then we went through this discussion about conduit for the brand. That's what we are truly. And then on question 5, when I asked, what are you most proud of? You kind of went in a direction that I wasn't expecting, and that's okay. You talked about Henry and Jinsoon. And you specifically said with Jinsoon, but I think the same is true of Henry, is that Jinsoon has a sad story. A sad story. And I thought, She mentions Barbie on question 1 and references a movie. And then on question 5 about what he's most proud of, she talks about Henry and Jinsoon and talks about a story. So here is what I think you're bringing to us, and we are blessed to have it. You are a marketing movie maker. A marketing movie maker. Let's talk about elements of a movie. There's character development. And so characters have an identity. And one of the things you mentioned early on was this notion of covering. I never heard of covering, LT. So I looked it up. And covering in the workplace, as defined by the Society of Women Engineers, says the following, brand nerds: the act of hiding or downplaying aspects of one's identity in order to try to match or to avoid violating the norms of a group. That's what covering means, brand nerds. But in the movies, the marketing movies that you make, Paige, you have a definite identity and character. They have to show up. You've said show up many times. And who do they show up as? Badass female leaders, okay? That's the character. Okay. The second thing is movies have a story arc up and down. You've talked about successes. Larry read your successes eloquently at the front. And then you talked about, hey, if there aren't enough failures in one's career, they haven't been trying hard enough. So this suggests to me that you've got these story arcs as a part of the movies that you make. And then finally, there's context. You can have past context, now context, or future context. In your case, the context is humanity. It's timeless. humanity is timeless. You don't end up adopting dogs that are in need of being cared for, because those dogs, good things are not going to happen to them if they don't have someone taking them in. Good things are not going to. So you and Wayne take in these dogs that become family members, and even to the point to where you say, Wayne says, okay, it's a holiday. Like, when do I get a new puppy? So your context is one of humanity. Now we come down to, what is the Paige Young movie title? And the title, you said it, it's called Earth School. And what is the Paige Young tagline for the movie Earth title? So you are the marketing movie maker. It is a tagline. Larry has already said one of them. And it's a triple entendre. Be you, be kind, be badass. This is what I think is you, Paige.
Wow, I am just, if you could see me, everyone, I'm absolutely blushing. I'm so humbled by LT and DC. That summary is, yeah, I don't have words. Thank you so much. It's been such a special conversation. I'm really grateful. And yeah, you've totally overwhelmed me. So thank you. Just very humbled to hear all of your kind words.
That's awesome. You earned it all. Anything you want to share quickly before we sign off here, Paige?
About what you learned from our conversation?
Right.
I think it is one of those. I have listened to some of the other podcasts, including old What's His Face, his other episode. Yeah. But, I do think probably, guess what you learn about me is I really am all about the people.
Yep.
I certainly could wax nostalgic about the programs and campaigns and things that I've run. And I'm very proud of that work, but I really care about my team. I care about the people around me. And, I'm just, that's kind of how I orient my work and my day. And it's just, I guess that's what's come out in the context of this conversation. But I've had an absolute blast. I appreciate the invite. I'm so glad we finally made it happen, guys. We did it.
Yes.
We did it. And thank you again.
Awesome. That's a great segue to close. Thanks for listening to Brands, Beats, and Bytes. The executive producers are Jeff Shirley, Daryl D.C. Cobbin, Larry Taman, Haley Cobbin, Jade Tate, and Tom Dioro. That is he. And if you are listening to us via podcast, it would be great if you can please rate and review us. Additionally, if you do like the show, please subscribe and share. We hope you enjoyed this podcast, and we look forward to next time, when we will have more insightful and enlightening talk about marketing.